Welcome. Operative question of the evening. What would you give up for a perfect trucking job? Think about it. What would happen if there were no rules in trucking? And someone could just come in and take over with no penalties, no problems. Well, lately, a lot of stories have been circulating that would give way to that possibility. So tonight, unions, the myths, possibilities, good and bad, and your thoughts. But first,
shall we begin?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network, welcome to Truckin City News Frontline Podcast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
Welcome, one and all. Thank you for joining us tonight. I thought it apropos to talk about unions. Because lately a couple of stories have come up in Freightwaves that caught my attention. I thought, well, when it comes down to unions, there's mixed opinions everywhere you travel. It don't matter who you talk to. It don't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Some say it's good. Others, it's the last thing they could even consider a possibility. Most are like me, and they join trucking as a choice. I see trucking as a lifestyle. I do not see it as a regimen. I don't see it as having a command structure. I don't see it as something where I have to give up everything I work for just because somebody else has an opinion about the industry that's unlike my own. So I figured, well, let's tackle the good and the bad when it comes to the question of unions in trucking. I've watched a lot of different channels out there, and I've seen a lot of different opinions. And what tickles me is that most of us fellas that have been in trucking for a length of time, now I don't talk like I'm anybody, that's been in here forever. I mean, I've only been in it 13 years. And I think personally, the industry could never be unionized. I personally feel like it's almost impossible. So put in the comments below what you think, or in the chat, what you think of the possibility. And let us know. Let us know your thoughts. And I want to know if you're against it, or do you favor the concept of, if not unions, at least somebody taking the reins and representing us better than the likes of, let's say, the ATA or OOIDA. I mean, both of those both of those organizations have their good sides, and they also have their bad, but at least they're attempting to represent something. Now, everybody on a panel that I have with me tonight, they're going to say they represent something, but it's not us. So put your thoughts also in the chat. Tell me what you think needs to happen to have your voice heard. And until the end of this show, let's see if your voice counts, and if we can discover in the chat and in this discussion tonight, if there's someplace other than Truckin City News where trucking news matters, but you are the one that counts. So let me tell you something. I have a diverse panel of people, all of whom have different experiences in trucking. I'm going to welcome them and yours as well. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, just simply drop us a comment. We'll get to them in a moment. Or call our studio line at 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. let us know your thoughts on unions as we begin talking about a story that I ran across in Freightwaves media recently. And we'll talk about some of the repercussions of said story here moments as we go on. Welcome to you, John. You are part of our usual panel and the one organization of your own that says truckers are people too. So tell me, what do you think about unions? Are you for them, against them? Do you think it's a possibility? And give us your thoughts.
I think on paper unions are great because they give a voice to the employees. The problem is traditionally unions end up getting big and becoming corrupt, and that becomes an issue. I'm not sure the story you're referencing, but that is kind of my take on a union. I come from a family where my mom worked for a union factory for many, many years. So it's not like I'm not familiar with unions. I've never driven for a union company though.
Right, right. Well, just for graphics sake, I'm going to take a second here if I can set this up as we're talking about it. And I'm going to give you an idea kind of what the story is. And I'm going to try doing this by screen share because you know what? Everybody has to start somewhere. Let me see if this works right. Yes, it does. So let's start there. In Freightwaves, there is a story that says Virginia's carrier wins against the union, may ultimately give a labor boost to the National Labor what is it? National Labor Relations Board. Okay, it involves a small trucking company out of Virginia. I think the story goes that it's Garton Trucking. Okay, and a series of decisions over a number of couple of lawsuits. Apparently, judges basically landed a defeating blow to the initial lawsuit, and it's said that it might tie up the scales to a more union-friendly environment. And I think the whole thing started over somebody's insistence that the company in question not be represented by a union. Apparently, a number of people took a vote and decided they didn't want a union. And the vote, however, tilted the other way. So the owner of the company made some very public statements and made a very public outcry about the fact that he did not like unions. Comments such as, it's horse crap and it's worthless. And I'm not going to elaborate exactly what was said because it's not family friendly. That's like my show is. But it sparked legal action that resulted in a debate over whether or not lack of raises within a company due to union influence was holding back the company and should therefore the company be allowed to pull out and go on their own. So given that broad context, I know it's very broad and very basic. What do you guys think? I mean, should a company, and I mean, let's pull them out of the hat. We know one big company that's recently been in the news. One that I'm sure, Tom, you're probably very familiar with, Yellow. They had similar issues, but not exact to this story. But the union, in a lot of people's opinions, are what killed that company. So in reference to that story, what are your thoughts?
Well, big question is, if you're in favor of unions, that means you want to form a union, you want to pay dues, and you want to do whatever the majority votes to do. If that means the majority decides we're speaking Punjab next week, our dispatch is going to be in Punjab. If the majority says we're all going to wear orange shirts next week, we're going to wear orange shirts. If the majority says we're going to work for $1.05 a mile, we're working for $1.05 a mile. Do you really want to give up your independence and your autonomy to join a union?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens when you join a union. You give up your own voice to do whatever the majority votes to do.
Now, in the case of Garton Trucking, their biggest argument, I think, in terms of the way I read the story, was the fact that a lot of drivers felt like they were being held back and not allowed to advance to higher pay scales, better runs, better loads. So, I mean, who here feels that it's fair that a union control that instead of the company? Anyone? I mean, would you work for a company if the company then deferred to the union and said, we'll let them decide when you get raises?
Well, I did
Frank, what
that.
do you? Oh, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't know you were going to pipe up so quick. Go yeah, go ahead. You did
I worked for a union trucking company for 11 and a half years, and I would never do it again.
No kidding.
Because what Midlife said a minute ago is 100% accurate. I was forced to do
with them again.
Well, I was forced to do things that I didn't need to do. And if I didn't do it, nobody got it, type of thing. The biggest thing was my health insurance. At the time, my wife worked at the American Red Cross, and we had great health insurance. The company decided to defer insurance to the union, and it was everybody gets it or nobody gets it. So I essentially had to pay for two types of health insurance because I wasn't going to get rid of my wife's health insurance because it was better than what the union was offering me.
Right,
you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
personally, I would never work for another union company.
Yeah. What say you, Frank? What are your thoughts on unions?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've never worked under a union, and I don't ever plan on it. It's just not something for me. I mean, there are people out there that would work under one because they think it's a great benefit, but myself, no. I've researched it and found that it's more trouble than it's worth. They're very controlling, just basically like Midlife and Fate was talking about. No, I'm not going to have someone control me, whether if I'm working for a company or if I'm independent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Now, another question. I'm going to go through comments here. As I ask this question, just think of your answer and kind of keep it on your hat for a minute because I'm going to roll around the panel and figure this out. But unions have been a lot of debate over the last couple of years, I think. I've run into a number of people that are mixed. And the way I mentioned this in the intro, the way I've figured this out is if you're newer and you're younger and you have very shallow and very narrow experience, and I'm saying that very gingerly, you're typically more likely, I think, to favor unions. You think that would be the best place to go work or the best answer for the industry. It just depends on what stories you're exposed to. But those of us, like everyone on this panel, that have had multiple years, multiple different companies, positions, or even worked in several sectors, we kind of look at things more realistically and we understand that unionization, I think, industry-wide is more or less an impossibility. So think about that for a minute. I'm going to come back to the panel with a question. A couple of comments are catching me here. First of all, Kyle, Rolling Stones fan, love the name. I love it. Welcome once again to the show. Kyle, in case you guys are unaware, this is the same Kyle that runs the works at the Bordentown what is it, Blue Beacon? So welcome again to the show, my friend.
I actually got to meet Kyle. That was awesome.
Was that awesome? All right.
Yes.
You got a few seconds to tell me. Did you tell him about me and say hi from Boss Man?
Yes, I did. He'll put it in the comments. Yes, I did. I said you and Grumpy said hi.
All right, good deal. Fellow named Alex M is saying howdy. Welcome. That was from last week, I remember. Truckin is Dead also in there saying hello. So, once again, guys, if you're in the comments, if you're watching this, let us know down in chat. What are your thoughts? Just like I asked in the open, what are your thoughts about unions? Now, in terms of what I just mentioned a minute ago, industry-wide, and I know, like I said, every one of you got varying amounts of experience. So I'm going to go from the highest numbers to the lowest numbers. And if I read right, I think, Scott, you have got probably the most experience of all of them, by the numbers anyway. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's possible that we could ever see the likes of a union representing the entire industry?
Well, the fact that I'm a business owner, no, I don't
No.
want to. I don't want a union anywhere near my business.
No.
And that's just. I mean, I think unions are important in some sectors.
Mhm.
Obviously, when unions were created, I think they were vitally important. I don't think we live in that era now.
No.
At least for what
Well,
I did in my experience,
I had
I
two reasons for picking on you first. One is because majority of the unions that do exist today are in food prep, food distribution, and food handling. There's a lot of unions that circle around all the regional deliveries that handle reefer trailers, refrigerated transport, and produce delivery. So I thought of you because I know you handle reefers. So, there again, you probably see more union activity around you because of, just what you transport than probably any of us on the panel. So that's the reason I
well,
picked on you.
not only that, I've experienced both sides of it. I've experienced a decade in the union. I've experienced a decade outside of the union. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give or take a few years. And
Yeah.
the union. For me, the union never did anything for me. I never needed to call on them to save my job. I never needed the union to really do anything for me. Matter of fact, like I was part of the Teamsters Union. My Central States pension fund that I was vested in is worth nothing. So they couldn't even handle my retirement for me. You know what I mean? Which that was a big selling point. My grandfather retired a Teamster. My father was a Teamster.
Yeah.
The third generation Teamster, no, it just wasn't. It didn't work for me. They did nothing
Right.
for me.
Right. Yep. Exactly. All right. So, and we got somebody with an opinion. I like this. No, I am too independent and defiant to authority. I mean, who here can honestly say they disagree with that? I mean, trucking is dead. Good point. I mean, honestly. So it's the same question to you, midlife. I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of the possibilities of there being somebody representing truckers that would ever be close to or maybe approximate a union? I mean, what are your thoughts?
We already have them. It's called the Teamsters. People can feel free to join them. I actually was a
Well, true.
Teamster. I was actually a Teamster in 1983 when I was 17 years old. I was the
Mhm.
lowest paid man in the Coca-Cola plant, and I was
Mhm.
paid $17 an hour when minimum wage was $3.25. Was I
Right.
worth $17 an hour? Hell no. But
No.
union contract. Now,
Yep.
on the negative side of that
Mhm.
Coca-Cola bottling company in Akron, Ohio, Triplet Boulevard, it's still
Right.
there, but there's no
Yep.
more union people there. They don't bottle there anymore. Why?
Kind of,
Union
kind.
contracts.
I was gonna say, kind of went the way yellow did. I mean, yeah, sometimes it works, but then you get times like now where the economy is so jacked up and it's so, I mean, it's really hard to be in trucking with the economy the way it is today.
The Teamsters
You know,
Union sacrificed yellow to get a better bargaining position on UPS.
yeah, which is a clever thing on my part. That's the reason why I put that in the thumbnail, because every time the union word is flown around, that's the first company everybody thinks of. Because I mean, UPS is the number one company in parcel package delivery, but every time a union argument comes up, everybody throws that name in there. What are your thoughts,
It's
John?
funny. It's funny that you bring up UPS because I actually have a buddy that works for UPS, and from all the conversations I've had with him, it comes down to one thing: if you want to drive a truck for a union like UPS or like Teamsters for UPS,
Yeah.
how much money do you need to make to be able to give up the things that you enjoy? That's the question. I mean, is it worth it to make 120,000 a year, but now you have to fight for seniority to get a route that you want, or is
You
it
got to
worth
sell
it?
your
You
soul
know,
just to get.
for all
Yeah.
the other
Go ahead.
issues. Yeah. So it
Vacation
all comes
time.
down to How vacation time exactly? It all comes
Yep.
down to how much is that money worth to you? Are you willing to
Yeah.
jeopardize a lot of things for a few dollars? And some people they are. So,
Yeah.
to each their own, I guess.
My gosh. Yeah. So, Frank, what are your thoughts about those of us in the industry that feel like we're underrepresented? When you look at the fact that there are these unions out there, like Tom says, like Bates pointed out, he's had industry experience with. Look at it from your point of view. I don't think, by the sounds of what you and I have ever talked about, you've worked for many unions. What about those people that are not represented very well? What about them? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Pretty much anything I've ever researched and found out about any kind of union is not worth being part of nowadays, especially now. Back in the older days, whenever unions first started, they actually cared about you and would fight for you as a worker. Nowadays, they're all about, oh, make sure you pay your dues. If you don't, you're out. You're on your own. You might as well find you another job. They don't care about you personally and your work ethics, and what you're worth and all that. I mean, yeah, they may decide they're going to do a picket line and all that, but that's not really everybody coming together. That's their choice, and they say, well, we're going to do a strike today. You have to join us, or you just out the door.
Yeah.
I had a company that done the same thing that I worked for. They wound up kicking the union out. They did not want it, and I did not want it. So thank heavens it was not allowed.
Right. Well, it's good to know. It's good to know indeed. All right, look, I'm
So-
going to take a minute. Oh, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I don't want to take over the host job or anything. So I ask a
No.
question then, because I've never worked for a driving union. I've worked for like a union in a factory a couple of times. But why do people like unions? I mean, all of us are all saying the same thing. Why are there people that love unions so much?
Go ahead, Scott. Answer that.
So kind of, I forget who was talking about it. Maybe Midlife was, where he started at the bottom and you work your way up until you become, a journeyman in that union. The union I was part of, the local 120, it took 4 years to get to top scale pay. You're usually starting out at a higher pay at a union shop than what like the average company is going to hire you for. There are benefits to working for a union. Personally, for me, the benefits aren't enough for me to say, I want to be part of this. I want to pay a monthly fee. I believe back when I was in the union, it was like $98 or $96 a month, or was it a week? Maybe it was a week.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it was a week. No, I don't think it was a week. I don't remember what it was. Anyways, it just wasn't worth it. But usually the benefits of working for a union company is it's laid out for you. If you work here for 4 years, you're going to get this much in your retirement. You're going to make this much money. You're going to get this much vacation time. I mean, there are benefits to working for a union.
Right.
Personally for me, the benefits weren't there though. I mean, I stayed with the company for a long time because it was a good company. I didn't like the union aspect of it.
Yeah.
And
Lewis Gordon, he says, I'm not opposed to a union. He says, I know a few union drivers that work for garbage companies and the union serves them well. So he kind of had, has the same opinion too. He says, I don't believe large employers have the workers' best interest at heart. I firmly believe they're solely focused on their bottom line. Now, right there is a dichotomy between two different things. He first talks about the unions, but then goes to talk about companies. Now, realize when you become a union, you kind of almost give up the autonomy of the company, and you have to surrender to what the majority wants. So, yeah, to a degree, I understand what Lewis is saying. But, for example, I worked as a grocer. I didn't do this in trucking, but I worked as a grocer for about 1 full year while I lived in New York. I had to join the local grocers union because I worked in the produce in ShopRite, and they have their own union that represents everybody in that store. And I had to agree to every one of their terms, their benefits, I had to pay their dues. I had to do all that. So a lot of the things that come naturally to a lot of large companies that don't have unions, you kind of have to give up. You almost have to. So, to his point, good point he made though.
And
Another
here's
new
the
thing.
other thing. Here's the other. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, midlife.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
No, go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead.
Your contracts, even with a union, can change at any time, and it's not. I mean, they make it sound like it's black and white. You know what I mean? Like the company has to do these things. Well, let me ask you this question: if a company can't afford to give their employees the $1.25 raise that's coming up, would you rather have a job and maybe pass on that raise, or have your union fight for you to keep that $1.50 raise or $1.25 raise, but then be out of a job in a month? You know what I mean?
Scott, I got the comment right below you. A guy named Will Nip, new face in town. I like his content or his comment. He says, I was in the Teamsters my last job. The only thing they were good for was keeping a job of someone who couldn't keep it themselves. So losers love the union. Now, I don't know if that relates to the comment you just got done talking about, but to your point, Scott, it does stabilize an otherwise unpredictable, maybe environment or job or profession, what have you. It does do a lot for that. I mean, yes, some companies have a good work ethic and work model, and unions will help that, but not always. Not always. I mean, the only example I've got to go on is my example, and that's when I worked for ShopRite. There was a lot of things I could not get done. There was a lot of changes I couldn't make. And most of them were usually around benefits and pay. When you sign a contract and you become a union member, you have to toe the line. You have to do what they say.
If you work for a union, you're not getting a raise until the union scheduled raise. That's right. If a company's giving you a raise, they're doing it under the table, which breaches the contract of everybody that's in that contract. And like you brought up UPS. You brought up UPS, right? And UPS was part of the local that I was in here in Minnesota, right? So if that company the company I worked for breached a contract with an employee of the company that I worked for, not only did they breach my contract, they breached UPS's contract. Like they can't do that.
They would have lost all the way around. So, and if I'm not mistaken, that was probably the start of the decline of Yellow, but I may digress on that. Did you want to add something, Tom? I saw you perking up there a minute ago.
When it comes to a union, poor employees love a union because the union carries them. Mediocre employees think the union's okay, but it holds good employees back, because just like you were talking about, you can't get a raise. You can't get a raise because the union says, nope, this is what you're paid. Could I have made six figures as a company driver, W-2, my second year in trucking if I went to work for a union company? No, because I would have been low man on the totem pole. I've had 3 new trucks, 3 different places. I've had brand new trucks. I wouldn't have got brand new trucks because they were ordered by seniority. The only thing a union cares about is seniority. How long have you been here? How long have you kept your head down? If you excel and you go out and you do too much, they don't like that. And that's the big problem with unions. They hold good employees back.
And unions have their benefits. Now, I don't mean that facetiously. I say it because of the very comment I see below me here. I'm going to get to it, Scott. Unions have their benefits, and I don't mean that in benefits. I mean that they have good parts, and they also have bad. But to Lewis Gordon's point, one of the benefits unions do carry with them is that they are able to carry great health plans, and they can make it possible for you at least to watch your health better, stay healthy, get checkups, get medical care if you need it. Not always can't be said for a lot of larger companies that are non-union. They struggle with that. And a lot of times, if a company goes under, the first thing you lose usually, if they go bankrupt, and we've seen a number of them recently in the news, the first thing they do is cancel healthcare. So if you're non-union, it's gone. But if a company goes up and goes belly under like Yellow did, all those people that worked for Yellow had to do was just contact the Teamsters, and they were put in rotation to find the next union-based job. So as long as you're a union member, you don't have to worry about health benefits at all. So, it's the union that carries you. So, more to that. You made a point there.
That's
Okay,
not true.
What do you mean, Scott?
That's not true. You are not carried on the health insurance program of a you're still like it. Let's say you get laid off from a company and you're under union insurance. You still have to pay that insurance cost weekly. And when you talk about when you talk about
what you pay for, I was talking about the overall benefit you get and the fact that you don't lose it when the company goes when the company goes bankrupt. You don't lose it. You still have
sure
it.
You do.
No.
Well, you're still paying for it. Yes. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But like the retirement aspect, at least my experience, my pension, I was vested, went from, I think it was $2,100 a month to $100 a month. To now me getting the letter saying the Central States Pension Fund has now been bailed out by the government. We know anytime the government bails something out, I would have been better off. I am better off planning for my future in retirement than allowing a union to do it. The union I was part of, the president and vice president got arrested for embezzlement and are still in prison right now. They do not have your best interest at mind. They want to fill their pockets. They're a business. Yeah, to think a union isn't a business in itself is ridiculous. They're a business. They're a very big business. My health care that I was forced to get because of the union was not better than what my wife's had. Me going out as a business now and providing my own health insurance, I at least get to choose what I want. I didn't have a choice in the union. It was you take this or nobody gets it. Like, that's not a choice.
Let me ask you
socialism.
this. Yeah, let me ask you this. Does anybody here disagree with what Luce just said? He says, without a union, you'll have to surrender to what corporate wants. Think about that for a minute.
No.
Here's the difference. As a company person, you can go to bat for yourself and get something for yourself that another employee doesn't have. Okay. With a union, you can't go to bat for yourself. You're not allowed to step out of line. And if they did cater to you, they violated contract. So yes and no, I agree with. I kind of get what he's going there, but from my experience, I can actually go to the company and talk directly to the company myself. I don't have as much power, but I can be a convincing guy. I just say I'm John.
You're still part of a corporate deal. Like when you sit down at negotiations, you're dealing with the workforce, the people doing the work, and the corporate side. You know what I mean? There's two parties at the table, with the union basically being the moderator. The union gets money from the company that you work for. So they're going to do some of what the company wants and some of what the employees want. But here's the thing, like Midlife said earlier, you are agreeing to like what the majority wants. Understand what the majority is. That means if there's 50 people, 26 is the majority. The other 24 don't matter. Right. If they don't want something, the 26 do. That's what gets written down.
Right. Probably.
I'm very sour on the union. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
We can't tell.
Well, no, we can't tell at all. What do you guys think of the comment down below? Guys with a good work ethic don't need a union. What do you think of that?
True. Absolutely true.
Wait, what was the comment?
I agree.
It says down there, Will Nip says, guys with a good work ethic don't need a union.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of goes
Yeah.
along with what I was just saying. I can represent myself. So if I'm a hard worker, I can set myself apart from everybody else. That gives me the leverage I'm looking for. With a union, you could be the slacker and you still have power because of the union. So
Yep. I want to touch on one more
And
thing.
the slacker is going to surpass you.
yeah,
Go ahead,
probably.
Scott. I like where you're going with that. Go ahead.
The slacker is going to surpass you. Let's say for an opening position at a company, and that guy that has had to go to the union 3 or 4 times to save his job, and you've never missed a day of work, if he's been there 1 day longer than you, he gets the first right of refusal at that job posting. That's not fair in my mind. That's you're not, and please, like that guy that was leaving, was it Lewis that was leaving comments before? That's exactly how I used to think until I got out of the union and realized, man, like I gained a lot of experience, but I would have been so much better off taking care of myself instead of worrying about what the majority of the people wanted. You know what I mean? Because back then when I was in the union, everybody was getting close to retirement. What do you think they fought for? Better retirement, less pay. I could have got more pay on the open market.
Everybody in this industry today is fighting for better conditions, better rates on loads, better load volumes, better conditions as it pertains to the company they work for. Now, let's not even enter into the 3 statements I just made, whether or not a union is part of that. If you work in trucking, you want better everything. You want a better work environment. You want a better company to work for. You want a better environment on your own to do whatever it is you want. You want a better truck. You get the point. I mean, everybody wants something better. So as much as we're sitting here talking about unions, a lot of what Lewis said earlier, or was it when, guys with a good work ethic don't need a union. I mean, a lot can be said to the situation I just posed, whether you work for a union or not. What's wrong with wanting something better? I don't see any problem with that. You know, and just like Lewis says now, just like it can without a union. I mean, I don't know to what he was referring to or what he was responding to, but I mean, it's human nature when you're in an industry, whether it's trucking, whether it's produce, whether it's in warehousing, whatever. It's human nature to want to improve, to be better, to be something tomorrow that you're not today. So there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is everybody that gets into trucking sees this huge windfall, I want to call it, or whatever, but they see this huge crap going on about everyone talking about, you know, how bad it is versus or juxtaposed to everybody talking about unions. You know, every time a protest comes up, what's the first thing people put in comments under videos? Boy, you won't see people unionized doing this, you know, and everybody's saying, oh, we need a union to represent us. 3.5 million people later. You know, so, I mean, you can't have it both ways. You know, if you want to make trucking better, you've got to do your part. You've got to do what you want. But if you want a union to do it for you, you've got to give up all that freedoms and let somebody else take the reins.
There's a big thing. Something else everybody's forgetting. Every once in a while, unions take concessions. That's where they take a pay cut or they take a reduction in benefits, and you've got no say in it. You're one voice. 20, like he was saying, 26 out of 50 employees, you just agreed to that pay cut. And like I said, if let's say we unionize trucking, what if they decided they wanted everything to be in Punjab tomorrow? All dispatch will be in Punjab. Or,
you know,
all
I'm almost sick.
A mile.
Well, you make sense, Tom, but I'm almost getting sick of that reference. You've used that on 3 different videos now. Can you find a different
Spanish? I could use Spanish, but you know,
well,
here's H1B.
Yeah, right.
Here's the other thing. Here's another thing to think about. You, boss man, you were talking about union to look out for you, to get benefits, to get all these things, right? My experience in life has been, now I'm young, I'm 45, right?
Right.
44, sorry. I'm 44. The only person that really looks out for me since I've been an adult is myself. The only one that's ever like made myself better is myself. I haven't had to rely on anybody to do something for me to get me to where I want to be in life. Does that make sense? Like, why would I turn my drive, my dreams, or not even dreams, my drive? Why would I turn my drive over to somebody else to dictate what I'm worth? I know what I'm fucking. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. It's a slip.
Beep, beep.
We all make it. It's a slip. We all make it. Keep
I
going,
know-
Scott.
I know what I'm worth, and I can go out and get that. I don't need anybody to fight for that for me. I can go out and do it myself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, see,
Right.
everybody. Well, second, John. Everybody on the panel's got different opinions about that. I mean, you know, to the point of Lewis Gordon, he said, "Well, it should be any layoffs. Hardworking people get axed all the time." And to that, I mean, is it necessarily fair to say that unions can save you from that? I mean,
No, look at yellow.
yeah, because Midlife. Well, I was just going to say, Midlife pointed out earlier that even Yellow lost all of their benefits after everything happened. You know, so you know, having a union isn't exactly necessarily best thing. It is a better guarantee than you on your own. But to Scott's point, you give up the ability to do on your own that which everybody in mass decides to do. If you can't take it upon yourself, if you can't take it upon yourself to make your own improvements, you know, union's not the place to do that.
How I got out of the union was being laid off twice. And I said, screw this. I have so many years of driving experience. Why am I putting myself through this? And I made a decision that I was going to leave the union. And I'll tell you what, personally for me, after 13 years of being a union guy, 12 years of being a non-union guy, I am much better off leaving the union had I stayed in the union.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Much better off.
Okay.
I
We
don't
have a
know
new
if
face in here. Go ahead, John.
It's okay. I'm probably going to point out the same person you're about to point out. I don't know if one of you guys said it or it's a conversation going on in the comments. Maybe I missed it. But Wilburn Express is saying that somebody's incorrect. That it's not human nature to want to do something better. Basically, today people are happy and content, and they don't use a strong work ethic. Basically, I'm going to actually disagree with you. I agree that is a problem, and that does happen quite. But I think that is outside of a trucking issue. That is a how you were raised issue. I mean, I raised 4 kids.
I personally believe what Will Burner is expressing is an opinion. And as everybody here on the panel knows, you're entitled to your opinions. And whether they're the majority opinion or not, that's, you know, up to everybody involved. I do not agree with the part of the statement where he says strong work ethic has gone by the wayside, simply because anyone and everyone that has a pulse has the capability of having a strong work ethic. The problem isn't the people involved. The problem is the people being trained. People that are training others don't deliver the strong work ethic, and that's where the problem starts.
Work ethic, I don't want to go up on a tangent here, but work ethic has, I think, very little to do with training. Actually, it has to do with your upbringing. As raising 4 children, and all of them are not because I'm their dad, but they are all extremely hardworking people. Yep. When I go back and ask them why they work so hard, what's so important that they have to work that hard, and they tell me and my wife that they saw us working hard our entire lives, and so that's just what you do. So you can actually raise your kids to be hardworking people. What he's talking
Yeah.
about is there's a lot of generation that was raised not to be hardworking people.
Yep.
Exactly.
Lead by example.
I was just going to ask if you had something to say on that, Frank, because you've been too quiet in this show. You need to speak up. My
yeah, well, this grumpy old thing here, basically you lead by example. So, I mean, if you were raised by a good family and you understand work ethics and you work your butt off while you're out there and you try to make a living to take care of your family and yourself, it's going to rub off to your children as well, and they're going to see that and they're going to want to be out there trying to do it. So I mean, besides the factor of the union's not going to determine that kind of stuff. This is stuff that as a human being we have to determine. So
you individually have to figure out. That's right.
Yeah.
Give me just a moment, guys. I want to take a moment and recognize one important fact, okay? And I didn't do this at the start of the show, so forgive me for just a moment. You know what? Unions aside, there's one important fact Frank just brought up. It made me think of somebody very important. Every one of us out here have at home, hopefully, a very strong support system. That in itself is a union when you think about it. And I bring it up simply because at home, sitting, waiting, and probably watching this live right now, is the biggest union I have going for me. My wife and my 2 kids. They are the entire reason why this whole panel right here sets. And by panel, I don't mean the people. I mean what you're looking at the right-hand side of the screen. I'm doing my best to create a company, a YouTube channel, and an environment where you can come up here, sound off, be heard, make your voice known, make your opinion count. Please take the time during this broadcast. Go down below, like this live show, become a subscriber, and definitely come back to us frequently, because you know what? If you think this conversation's good, I've got a family of people at home that are counting on you to know how good it can get. And I'm looking for monetization as quickly as possible. So the more you guys pay attention to me, the more you guys put in the comments, your likes, your thoughts, your disbeliefs, your comments and opinions, the stronger and faster that can happen. Simon, did you want to opine on something I saw earlier? You were talking back and forth with Lewis, looks like, and he made a statement about something we were talking about a minute ago. Does corporations do the same thing? I think you made a comment about it, but that seemed like you and him were holding a dialogue there, so I didn't want to interrupt on that.
Corporations are out for themselves. They are out for the corporations, just as they should be. The corporation's job is not to carry the employees. It's not to make sure all the employees are happy and can pay all their bills and are loving life every day. That's not a corporation's job. The corporation is to make money for its owners and investors. Now, in a socialist environment, then the company is made up of the people and they all share in the profit. We're not in a socialist country.
No.
The biggest thing with unions is unions are great for the poor employees. They'll carry them. They're okay for the mediocre employees. They hold back good employees. I can't walk in and ask for a raise if I'm in a union company, because they're going to say, oh, no, you have to get your raise when you meet this step level or after this many years. It's all on seniority. At a regular company, I can work a little harder. I can make more money. Just like here. My third, fourth year in trucking, I made 6 figures. How many truck drivers do you hear out here crying the blues that they only make $50,000, $60,000? Well, I'm able to do that because I'm able to find a good carrier, work very hard with them, and I'm not held back by a union saying, no, you can't have that route, Tom. You can't have that Laredo run. You're stuck with the little run. Good people get those.
What do you think,
See, that's the thing about it with the union. You know, not only are they basically there for themselves to make money nowadays, it's the factor, like, you know, when you're working for a big company and stuff, the ones that are the good workers, like Tom was saying, basically, is you get left behind and you wind up, you know, basically hurting because you're paying in these dues every week or every month. Generally, it's every week out of your paycheck. So even if you do get a raise, they're going to take most of that money back some way, somehow, or a majority of it. So you're not really getting ahead to think about it.
Yep. Introduce us to Fido.
Oh, my dog?
Yes.
Yeah. Cute little puppy.
This is Xena.
Cena?
Yeah. Xena.
Okay.
Like the warrior princess.
Yeah, I was
There
just
you
going to say
go.
the warrior princess.
I love the name, Scott. I love it. That is a great name for a dog.
My
She's
wife,
beautiful.
My wife
Yep.
named her. Thank you. She's getting old. She's an old girl.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let's show
hey,
this fella
boss man.
down below in the comments some awesome love. Rolling Stones fan, help him out. He's trying to go live. He wants to reach 50 subscribers. So if you want to talk to somebody named Kyle that loves Rolling Stones, go check his channel out.
Can I add
Is
to
that the
that,
guy-
boss man?
Is that the guy that you said works at Blue Beacon
Yeah.
Yes, that's him.
in
Yes,
New
that's him.
Jersey?
Yep. Go ahead, John. Oh, we just lost him. I don't know. His video just cut out. But yeah, that's the fella. He works at the Bordentown, New Jersey Petro.
Blue Beacon.
So the blue. Oh yeah, the Blue Beacon rather. If John would stop messing with his camera, I'd put him full screen. He could talk, but he just wants to be particular.
Well,
fellow.
so real quick, Rolling Stones fan, you have a wrench by your name. Go to your channel and hit the share button of your channel and copy the link to your channel and then come and put it in a comment here. That way people can get to your channel.
Yeah, I think if
Good
he's
idea.
on John, he's probably on John's, whatever channel he's on. Just hype their copy the URL to your channel and just put it in there. You did say he's got a beagle. He's complimenting on your dog as well, Scott. So that's easy to do, my friend. I welcome it. Whether you're on my channel or John's, just go ahead and share out the channel link, my friend. Anyway, I was scanning the comments and lost my place. As a bad host, I am. Lewis says, who's generating the profits? We already talked about that a minute ago.
God, I hate that argument.
What? Who's generating profits?
Yes. I without the company, you have nothing. Like
Exactly.
you're generating a company money that's paying your life.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't want to. I have this argument, and I'm not. Whoever made that comment, I am not saying this degrading to you. Please understand that. I just had this exact same conversation with my 20-year-old college student child who thinks socialism is like the greatest thing in the world. Do I think we should have some social programs in this country more than we have? I do, but that's because of kind of how I lean. But without corporations, we don't have the houses we live in. We don't have the cars that we drive. We don't have anything. So yes, you are contributing to that company's profits, and they are paying you for doing that. If you don't like the pay, go find another job. Nobody's forcing you to work for a company that you feel like you're being taken advantage of. Nobody.
I know Midlife has been basically dialoguing with this fella in the comments the whole time. So, kudos to you guys for holding an honest conversation. But I just have to point out, he says, so how is it their responsibility to make sure that people who are solely responsible for generating profits aren't taken care of? So by that comment, I have to assume that he's talking about corporations bleeding the people that work for them dry. But just like Scott pointed out a second ago, it's the corporations that are willing to provide you the job you have. It's not their responsibility to cater your pretty ass all the way to the bank. I mean, they can provide you a job and they can provide you the resources, which, Tom later pointed out, they provide the fuel, the truck and all that kind of stuff. So why is it their job to provide you the dream? That's on you. If you have the dream and you have the willingness to chase it, that's on you. It shouldn't be the company's problem. You should thank the company for allowing you to share in their vision. Anybody
Listen.
disagree with that?
No. Look, the company's job is to make money for the company.
Exactly.
And if using employees is the way they make their money, great. But at any point when the employees become too expensive, you offshore, you outsource, you automate.
Yep.
When
Exactly.
automation's ROI becomes cheaper, you buy the machine.
Exactly.
And the same thing applies with employees. When the employee doesn't feel they're making the reward that they should get, they leave. The employee's not
And at
loyal.
this point,
Here's one last point. These people run the company, the stakeholders, the shareholders, they've invested their money where their mouth is. If there's a loss and they go negative, they don't tell the employees, hey, this week you got to kick in some money. They eat that loss. The employee still gets a paycheck.
Well, and they've invested everything. The whoever's running these corporations and these companies have invested. Now, what I'm going to say is going to sound very like crude or mean, right? To like us, to the working class people. We invest our time. That's what we're paid for. We get paid for the time that we invest in the company.
Right.
As a business, I can tell you the time that I've invested is nowhere near the amount that the business invests to offer that job to you. Does that make sense? They've invested everything. The only thing you're investing is your time, and they've invested everything. You know, hundreds of millions of dollars. Who knows? And I'm not saying you shouldn't be compensated well. I believe everybody should be compensated well, but that's your right to go out and get what you think you deserve. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you, a union hinders you on that. It's going to tell you you're only going to make this much to this period, and then you're only going to make this much. And then once you're at that top scale, you're only getting your raises every year. That's it. So if you think you're worth more than that, which I felt like I was, you take a risk on yourself, and then you see, oh, these companies spend way more money than I see behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's some that actually put a cap on your raises too. So if you've already been there for a long period of time and it comes time for raises, everybody else is going to get a raise and you're like, where's my raise? And they're going, oh, well, you're at the maximum you're going to get. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I got cut off earlier. Can I jump in for 2 seconds here?
Oh, have at it, John. Have at it.
Sorry about that. Actually, I've got two things to say, so just give me a moment here. But I just saw a comment pop up that I think is going to get everybody a little bit more worked up. WCIF Invader says unions are needed in trucking. I wouldn't want to work for a union. Basically, LTLs, he's saying it keeps them honest. I'm not going to say I agree with that, actually. I work for an LTO company. We're not union, and I'm well compensated and very happy working here. So that would be my response to that. But what I was going to say earlier is, as Kyle was saying, he posted his link down there in the comments. Go down and you can subscribe to him. There are 5 channels here. We're all on YouTube. If you watch me, if you watch Scott, if you watch Midlife, if you watch Grumpy Trucker or Truckin City Media, the host over there, guy, go around to all these channels and subscribe, guys. If you're into trucking content, you're gonna like anything that any of us make. So, and don't listen to the guy that's right over here shaking his head no. Definitely check out his channel. He is the Reaper King.
Oh man, he is.
His videos are awesome.
Putting out some awesome
Stop.
No, I'm telling you the truth, my friend. You are in it for the love of God. And I'll tell you what.
You must not have seen the video I posted today.
Well,
no, but we will.
In a lot lately because I've been busy with the family. But you have been doing an awesome job with them vlogs, my friend. That is just simply the truth. That's all there is to it.
Thank you.
So, look. I mean, hey, when it comes to the world, go ahead.
I look at him as his videos are very inspirational, and educational on a lot of things. So, you do make a good hit, or you really do. I mean,
Yep.
even with me having just a little under experience from just you, I mean, you've got about a year more than me. I mean, I like watching them because I'm like, okay, all right, looks good. That's, I'm a critic, but at the same time, yours, I don't see much to be a critic on. You do really good work, and I like it.
I think
Keep up the good
I
work.
think well, I think
Well,
you
Thank you,
well,
but that's enough. I appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. But let's
No.
To change the
let's
subject,
stop talking. Yeah.
yeah, to change the
Thank you,
subject,
John.
people in the comments are going nuts about the union thing, guys. I I understand what most everybody here is saying,
Fate's turning
but
red.
let's be yeah, but let's be honest. He doesn't like to be called out like that. But I understand what
I don't do
everybody's
it all.
saying.
But
But guys,
I do it when
there
it
is a
needs.
place. There is a, and I know this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but there is a place for a union in certain places in certain times. They have a
Yeah.
purpose. But the problem with that is they get too big and too powerful and become corrupt. So I have a
Well,
lot of friends that work for unions and they are diehard union people. I
yeah.
personally am not, but I do understand in some industries it is almost a necessary thing. I don't think
I
it's in
think when
trucking
it
though.
comes, I think when it comes to the world of trucking, unions are heavily, and I do mean this very genuinely, heavily misunderstood. A lot of people think, and again, I default to where I introed this. A lot of people with no experience and little experience in the industry think that unions are the answer. But then there are those of us, like I said on the panel, that having had the experience and the wide berth of, different sectors we've worked in, we kind of know right where the truth stands. Unions do have their benefits and unions do have their problems. But one of the leading issues nobody seems to realize, and a lot of you touched on tonight in this panel, is that when it comes to that, freedom and flexibility is one of the first things you lose, and one of the biggest problems this entire industry would have if the unionization argument were to go any further. So, as we round this up, think about it.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on freedom and flexibility versus unionization? Scott, what say you?
Oh, that's such a tough question.
Yeah.
I say that because, like I said, I mean, I spent over a decade in the union and I've spent over a decade as a non-union. Whether I was an employee or an owner operator like I am now, I had way more freedoms. Here's the thing. When I got into the industry, when I worked for a union, I knew exactly what my job details and descriptions were. I knew how many days I was going to get off. I knew how many sick days I was allowed to have. I knew how much I was going to make and what my raise was going to be every year. As a non-union employee, I was able to negotiate up front. Hey, I want 4 weeks of vacation. I want to get paid X amount of dollars. The company then had to determine if I was of value to that company. I had more freedom to get what I thought I deserved. And like I said before, my Central States pension, guys, is worth nothing. I gave 13 years of my life thinking that the union was the right thing. And my experience was very, very bad. Now, maybe your experience is very good, but I know I could have controlled my money because I've done it over that decade for my retirement much better than the union did it for me. I can go on my desk right now and show you the letters I get from Central States saying my pension's worth diddly poop,
There's way too many hands in that jar. So I totally get where you're coming from. So Frank, what say you?
Well, I pretty much agree with Fate. I mean, you got to know. I mean, even if you're not a part of a union, you got to know how to manage yourself, and be able to take control of what you're doing and be able to control it right. Talk to your company, keep in communication, see if they're going to work with you, see if you're going to get raises. I mean, unions basically do that stuff for you, and you're paying for it. But you yourself can actually do that as a person and fight for yourself without paying all these dues.
Yep. What say you, Tom?
Well, I know people love the unions. They say it's a great idea until they realize that the union is the majority voting and you've got to do what they say. And right now, we all know freight rates are in the toilet. Unions are giving concessions.
Yeah.
And the problem you have is if you're in a non-union company and somebody starts talking about cutting your pay, you're going to tell them, hey, look, I'm leaving if that's the case. And they have to decide, are you worth what you're being paid? And it can be done on an individual basis. It can't be done on an individual basis if you're in a union. You've got a step level and you got a year level. And that's what you're going to get. And the other thing Fate hit on, I'm agreeing with Fate way too much, but the not my job system. When I was in newspaper management, I once had somebody left a forklift parked in the middle of an alley, public alley, had a lady who couldn't get her car out. The union people were all at lunch. Guess what? They were all sitting around watching this lady. I jumped on that forklift and moved it. Did I get a grievance? Sure did. Guess what? That lady got to get her car out of there.
There you go. Yep. John, what say you?
Well, these are all pretty much our opinions. But my opinion on the thing is the company looks out for the company. The union looks out for the union. The employee, you got to look out for yourself. Do what's best for you. If what's best for you is working for a union, then do it. If what's best for you is working for yourself, then do it. Just remember that they all have their needs. You have yours. You got to look out for you. And always remember, truckers are people too. Only I don't have that shirt on right now, but they are, I swear.
They always are indeed. You know, when it comes to discussion over unions, whether it's good, whether it's bad, we're going to continue talking about it, and we're going to continue having that discussion. Why? Because I believe there's way too many misinformed people out. I think people think of the unions in a way that doesn't paint the right picture. So considering the facts, considering what's at stake, it's worth tuning in week after week and looking at the news and this channel for updates. Check out Nate, check out Midlife, check out John, check out Grumpy. All of us here mean well. We want to educate you, want to entertain you. We want to make sure that you remember it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make it count. So until next time, guys, remember, keep it real, keep the faith, by all means, keep it rolling.